everyone, welcome back to my series of Star Wars reviews leading up to Mandalorian and Grogu, and today I am talking about the most divisive movie in the Star Wars franchise, Star Wars The Last Jedi, starring Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill. Rey develops her abilities with the help of Luke Skywalker as the Resistance prepares for battle against the First Order. I haven't seen this movie since the theatre, so I didn't know what to expect going into it, watching it this time. Now, I do like movies when directors take risk with a franchise, because I feel like even though that I love the Marvel movies, I love the MCU. It's my favourite film franchise. But one of the main reasons why I love Thor Love and Thunder is because it's Taika Waititi going like, you know what? I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take the comedy to an nth degree, and I'm going to make it like my own. I'm going to make it feel more like a Taika Waititi movie. I'm going to make it feel like me. And that's why I like Thor Love and Thunder, because I think that it's a movie that takes a risk. And which we'll talk about. I have some controversial things in this and in Rise of Skywalker, but we'll get to that. Which, like, I think that I'm excited to talk about what Rian Johnson did in this movie. I also think that this is a fair sequel to Force Awakens. It picks exactly where we left off with Rey and Luke. We find out that Finn is still alive, and he is. The person that isn't that much, like, the same, that isn't really much of the same character from Force Awakens, Episode 7, is Poe. When Poe goes up to the ship and insults General Hux, it was kind of cracking me up, but it is also one of those things where it's like, that's not the version of Poe that we've seen in the first movie. Like, that's a bit weird. I will say, I do love that action scene where he tries to take down the Star Destroyer by himself. That's very Star Wars, and it gives me vibes of like the Revenge of the Sith opening with the battle with Anakin and Obi-Wan's little starships and going through the sky and everything. It gave me very much vibes of that, and I really, really like that. It's crazy that this movie shits from, like, it's crazy that this movie shits on General Hux. Like, the whole movie, after he was such a threat in Episode 7, which we'll talk about what his role is in the next one, but his role in the next one, like, really got me. I was like, oh my god, that's bonkers. Now, Luke in this movie. It never really bugs me that Luke was a hermit living alone on an island. Yoda was doing that in Empire Strikes Back. But the thing is, too, like, you gotta remember, he has failed the worst possible way that he could. Because he felt Ben going to the dark side, and the thoughts going through his head. Something that fans didn't expect after not seeing Luke return since Return of the Jedi. We would have thought that he would have more stayed the same. But the thing that we actually get explained in this movie, which we'll talk about a little later, like, there's a big reason why he's doing the same thing that Yoda did. Like, he failed. He failed a mission. He failed the worst he possibly could, even more that he failed losing to Vader in Empire Strikes Back, and then taking him down and saving Han in Return of the Jedi. Like, this is the first time that he's ever failed. To an extent, kind of disappointed Han and Leia, even though that they don't blame Luke, even though that Leia and Han don't blame Luke. That is kind of a thing where you're like, Luke's like, I've disappointed my sister, I've disappointed my best friend, what have I done? But I will say that, from us getting that with Luke is hilarious in this movie. I giggled when he threw the lightsaber behind his shoulder, and I like when Rey puts her hand out to feel the Force, and Luke rubs the point against her hand, and she's like, I can feel it. And then Luke's like, can you feel it? You can feel it? And he's like, yes, I feel it. And then Luke's like, like slaps her with the bloody plant. He's like, hey! That did make me laugh. I was like, oh my god. Freaking hell. I love that. That was so funny to me. I like that Kylo Ren is a unique villain for Star Wars because he is a very childlike character. He can't take criticism, and when he takes criticism, he cracks his helmet and has a temper tantrum. Breaks his mask because he failed, and he is very relatable to lots of teenagers that do that sort of thing. I do like when Kylo is in his ship and taking down the First Order, and he gets to the point when Kylo is going around the ship and he feels the Force from his mother and Leia is looking at him. Ben is about to press the fire button to the ship, but then he sees Leia and he's like, no, I shouldn't do this. And he takes the button off. He moves his finger away from the button. That was beautiful. I love that. It really shows you that, like, even though that they might not be on the same sides, he doesn't want to kill his mother. That was really beautiful. Especially since he did that to his father in the last one. And that's when we get to Leia actually using the Force to make her way back to the ship. I like that we actually see Leia actually using the Force, other than just going like, oh, I have a feeling kind of thing, you know? Because, like, she was Force sensitive in the way in the previous movies of, like, we kind of knew that only because she would be like, I have a feeling. And then they would turn back and then, like, yeah, she's right, Luke is A-okay. Or, yeah, in retrospect, she is correct because there's still good in him. Because clearly he didn't want to shoot his mother when he killed his father. When he could have had... He was able to shoot... he could have shot Leia in the ship, but he didn't. So, like, there's bits in there that are like, okay, like, Leia is Force sensitive. But in this movie, we actually see it. And we're actually like, oh, okay, so we're actually seeing a different way to use the Force. And, like, that's... I like seeing different ways that the Force can be used. Because the fact that the Force is, like, even though it's cool seeing everyone do the Force pull or the Force push, there's got to be more to it than just pulling and pushing all the time. So, the fact that we actually see Leia use the Force in a different way, that's actually unique to me. I actually really like that. Do want to say about the whole sequel trilogy, Leia doesn't really get a lot to do. In the first movie, she did what she needed to do because Force Awakens was mainly about Han with our new crew. This movie, I bet you that this was gonna be one of those ones that, like, this was gonna be Luke's movie. And then I will not be surprised if if Rise of Skywalker was going to be Leia's movie, which, like, it technically is because a big thing happens to her in the next one, but the same thing happens to her here. So, it's one of those things where, like, you have to kind of go like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because, even though that I do agree that I would prefer to have Leia throughout the whole entirety of this movie, but at that point, we didn't realise that this was going to be her last performance ever. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's kind of disappointing that, like, this was the first time that we've ever seen Leia use the Force, but the last time we've ever seen Leia. It's crazy to me. But, like, I wish we got that moment, but, like, I know that we couldn't because, like, they were trying to make about Han in the first one, Luke about it in this one, then I will not be surprised if they were going to justify Leia in the next one. And the scene after that is Luke going back into the Millennium Falcon and turning everything on and seeing R2. That whole scene is cool, seeing Luke on the Falcon with R2 playing the original projection that Leia was saying, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Like, that actually makes him go like, you know what? I actually will help Rey become a Jedi. So, and that was the turning point of him going like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Even though that he didn't really want to train Rey to begin with, but that was the lesson he learned, was going like, I don't have a choice. I forgot that Laura Dern was a part of Star Wars, and I remember her character being a douche, and I wasn't wrong, she doesn't tell Poe anything. And she says, wasn't Leia's last word that she demoted you? Which wasn't her last words at all, because Poe went up to her while the Star Destroyers were coming because they were tracking them. Poe actually goes up to Leia, goes like, do you want me to get an X-Wing and blow stuff up? When clearly, before that was a cool reference how earlier she was like, Poe, not every situation you hop in an X-Wing and blow stuff up. Or gives you the right to hop in an X-Wing and blow stuff up. So, like, the fact that Poe went up to her and was like, you want me to go out and blow some stuff up? She's like, go do it. Like, that wasn't... The demotion happened before that. So, the fact that Leia was kind of going like, yeah, do it, was the kind of undemoting of it all. So, Laura Dern's character was just being a douche. And, like, it was one of those things where it's like, it kind of blew my mind how she was treating Poe in this. I was like, what in the world? Another character we need to talk about is Rose. I don't hate Rose as much as other people do. I don't think Rose is actually I think Rose is actually a really interesting character if they actually did more with her. But unfortunately, the most she gets to do in this movie, she doesn't get a lot. And then she gets pushed to the sideline the next one. Where it's like, J.J. Abrams didn't completely ignore The Last Jedi. Rose was an integral role to this movie. But she's not in Rise of Skywalker. It's like, bruh, come on. This is ridiculous. I love the scene, the Force connects Kylo and Rey, and they basically see each other. Almost they are in the same space talking to each other, even though that Kylo is on the Star Destroyer and Rey is with Luke. Like, that was cool. By those scenes, they are just teasing the whole Dark Rey thing that we'll eventually see in Rise of Skywalker, which we will talk about. Okay, Canto Bight is the thing in this movie that is the strangest thing in this movie. And it's easily the worst bit of this movie. And there is no reason for it to be in this movie. If you took out or even changed it to something different, so much better, you get to love the scene when Luke goes on the rock and closes his eyes and sees Leia, and she whispers, like, from her bloody coma, goes, and then Luke opens his eyes going, Leia! Like, that was cool. I really liked that. I do like seeing the different ways that the Force can be used and how the Jedis use the Force. Like, Rey going into the cave and seeing the multiple versions of herself, like when she clicks and everything. That was very cool. And hearing the kind of noise, that was very cool. I actually really liked that. And the scene when Luke is about to burn the books, he sees Yoda again. That was cool. I loved seeing Yoda back in this movie. That was such a great moment, and I love how they used the old puppet as opposed to CGI. Is really good. I love how they use Yoda and how he was an important part of the story and he wasn't just a 5-second cameo. Like, he wasn't there for long, but he was there to teach Luke a very valuable lesson, like he's supposed to. And that was very cool to me. I love seeing that. It was very much like seeing Obi-Wan in Empire Strikes Back and Last Jedi, like seeing him as a Force Ghost and teaching Luke a very valuable lesson. That was very cool to me. I love that. I do like the scene when Poe realizes what Laura Dern's character is doing, and he's like, you're not just a coward, you're a traitor. I like that scene. That was like, yes, Poe, go! Like, tell this bitch. Because Poe always needs a plan. You can't just go like, oh, we don't have a plan. We don't need a plan. We've got it. It's like, no. You need a plan. That's the point of Star Wars. You don't just head a ship straight first into the Resistance and go like, oh, we don't have a plan. Stupid. The relationship between Rey and Ben is so interesting, and I really like their dynamic together. And you see why lots of fans ship them together. And they play on the relationship in the next movie because of the scene of them in the Force and the action scene between them going up against the Red Guards, and they murdered Snoke. I will say that Snoke is a threat when he is traumatizing Rey, and Rey is just trying her best to kill him until Kylo kills Snoke. That was a moment of like, oh my god, what in the world? Like, what? You guys set this dude up as like the emperor of this new trilogy, and yet you killed him. That's crazy to me. So the line when Kylo said, "You're still holding on, let go," I feel like that's something that Ron Johnson put in there because he knew that this film was going to divide the fan base. But he wrote in there basically gone like, stop holding on to your childhood. There's more to Star Wars than the original trilogy. More lore that we haven't told you yet. Bloody deal with it. Like, because he knew that this movie was going to be divisive. So I feel like that line was right in there going like, talking to the audience, and everyone was like, oh, my childhood. Ah! Like, that was a thing of like, everyone just bloody suck it up. Like, it's Star Wars. It's a science fiction world. Like, anything can happen. Don't just go like, oh, the Force can't do this because, like, how do you know? You haven't seen it yet, but now you know that the Force can do different types of things because of these sequel movies. They've actually introduced new elements to the Force that we haven't seen in the prequels and in the originals. So, like, one of the things where you're like, I totally forgot that Rey and Kylo broke the lightsaber. That kind of shocked me. I was like, how are you gonna fix it for the next one? And sure enough, they just randomly fix it. I was like, what in the world? Now, were trying to set up Captain Phasma as a big bad, but they took her down in this movie. I mean, to be fair, it was an awesome moment for Finn to take her down because of The Force Awakens and their scenes together and that type of stuff. But, like, it is one of those things where you're like, man, you set her up and you killed her off in the second movie? That's bonkers. I like where the Rebel base is at the end, and the imagery of having the ships going on the salt, and when their fins go down, it makes this like red dust. It just makes great imagery in this movie. I like seeing Rey and Chewie in the Falcon joining in the fight. At the end, Rey being in the gun seat was just incredible because Finn was in the gun seat in the last one, and Rey was driving and stuff. Like, that was very, very cool. I actually like seeing that. That was amazing. Seeing Luke and Leia in the same room is just so amazing. And the fact that it's the last that we'll ever see those two characters in the same room, it's just so, like, it makes you so emotional because of Carrie Fisher passing away. And it's one of those things where you're like, man, if Carrie Fisher lived for one more movie, and if Rian Johnson and his bloody writers wrote the ending a little differently, we could have had these two actually working together, helping train Rey. Imagine that. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Luke thing in a minute. The fact that early in the movie, Luke said to Rey, what do you want me to do, Rey? You want me to stare down the whole First Order with a laser sword? And he ends up doing it is amazing. I love that. That was great. And his fight against Kylo is so cool. There's bits in there that I didn't catch, but then when you watch other people's reviews, you're like, oh, actually, that is right. That did happen. That Luke doesn't make, like, when he moves on the salt, the red salt doesn't come up. So that alone should be making your brain go like, oh, something's wrong here. What's going on? And like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not until that Carl actually stabs him and he's doing like this, and Luke has this face of like, really? And he's doing the, see you around, kid. Much like Han Solo does. Like, that was cool. I love that. That was amazing. But then Luke dies. I would have actually preferred if Luke actually was there and he goes X-Wing out of the water and actually went to Rey to help them, because he gets the X-Wing out of the water for Rey in Rise of Skywalker, which we will get to because I do love that moment in Rise of Skywalker. Is the only thing that I don't like about Luke in this movie is just the fact that you're killing off, like, all three of these bloody sequel movies. I don't think the plan was to kill Leia, but and because of the way that the universe played out and the way that everyone wanted to tell these stories, all three of these movies are killing off legacy characters. And that does kind of piss me off just a little. You're like, man, what the hell? Now, we do get cool scenes of them in the next movie, even though that, like, Luke, because Luke's a Jedi, he's a Force Ghost, which we'll talk about those things, because I actually really do like that scene. I do like the scene between Kylo and Han in Rise of Skywalker, which we will get to, because I actually know what it's meant to be portrayed as, so I look it through it as the way that it's meant to be portrayed, not the way that, like, oh, it's a memory of... Yeah, no, bullshit. But we'll talk about that in the next video. I like the whole thing of Rey lifting the rocks and stuff. I felt like that was a bit of a precursor, because that was kind of preparing us for what we would see in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series. Kind of the same thing with Mandalorian, when Grogu would touch someone with the Force and heal them. Like, that was preparing us for what Rey was going to do in Rise of Skywalker. I kind of forgot that this movie was the first time that Poe and Rey met in this movie. That was kind of bonkers to me. And the whole ending of this movie with the kid, like, while he's holding the broom and kind of changes it into a lightsaber, where, like, the sun, like, shines on the broom and the light's going up almost like it's a lightsaber, basically saying anyone can be a Jedi. I think that's a very powerful message for a Star Wars movie. Like, yeah, it's something that you wouldn't expect out of Star Wars, but I don't mind when a movie is actually given a message like that, because that's very powerful. That's like the Into the Spider-Verse scene where, like, Miles is doing the whole, like, oh, anybody can wear the mask. Like, that's one of those things where it's like, if you don't accept this, then don't accept the Miles thing. If you accept the Miles thing, accept this, because this is basically telling you the exact same story. But the only thing about this is that it's not part of the story, which in Into the Spider-Verse, the whole anybody can wear the mask is actually part of the story. Is my thought on that. The other thing that I don't like about this movie is that, and this is just a me thing, this movie's too long. And it's one of those things where I'm not a huge fan of long movies, and it's just me. I don't know why, but I do like this movie. I'm going to give Star Wars The Last Jedi 4 out of 5 stars. I think that what Rian Johnson was trying to do with the franchise, that the fans were still holding on to the past, the fans just couldn't accept what Rian Johnson was doing, because they hold on to the past. The fact that he was trying to was trying to revive the franchise after Force Awakens, and not just rehashing A New Hope again, was actually really, really good. I think that there were moments where, like, it's the same as Return of the Jedi and Empire, but it's not like... It sticks out more than Force Awakens, your repetitiveness of copy and paste, but, like, there's a lot of things in this movie that you're like, that's not from the original trilogy. I actually really, really like that. So that's the thing. So yeah, so guys, please Next time we'll be talking about Rise of Skywalker. Buck up for that because I have things to say about that one. So guys, please hit the like button down below if you haven't already. Hit subscribe, press the little bell icon to get notified for future videos I make. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.